Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm gonna show you how to set up SSH server in your Kali Linux or any other pentesting distros you might be using. So we are going step by step, not just by typing command, but actually understanding what each one does and why we are using it. So by the end of this tutorial, you will know exactly how to install, configure and secure your SSH server safely. So without any further ado, let's get started. Alright, first thing first, let's talk about what is an SSH. So SSH stands for Secure Shell. It's a cryptographic protocol that allows you to securely connect to other machine or network. In simple terms, SSH let you remotely control another computer instead of physically sitting in front of it. And the best part is everything is encrypted, making it more secure than older protocols like Telnet. So again, the main purpose of SSH is to securely connect and manage remote system through an encrypted communication channel. Alright, so before we go any further, I really want to clear up because this is where a lot of people get confused. As you might know, Kali comes with SSH client and OpenSSH server pre-installed, which means you can already use SSH to connect to other machines right away. But there's the catch: the SSH server which allow other system to connect to your Kali machine isn't enabled by default. So if you ever tried connecting to your Kali system and wondered why it doesn't work, that's the reason. Because the SSH server isn't running by default, so your Kali machine simply won't accept any incoming SSH connection, and that's actually intentional. So let's say if every fresh Kali install comes with the OpenSSH server running automatically, it would open a big security risk. Attacker could easily gain the advantage of that, especially if the user forgot to change the default setting or password. So that's why Kali disabled the SSH server by default, and honestly that's really important for keeping your system secure. Alright, now let's move on the installation part. Like I mentioned earlier, Kali already comes with OpenSSH pre-installed. So in most of the case you don't need to install it manually, but if for some reason if it is not available on your system, it's really very simple to install. Just open up your terminal and first we have to update our available packages. So just type sudo apt update, and this one basically refreshes the list of available packages, kinda like checking if there are anything new or not. And once that done, hit sudo apt install OpenSSH server. This will install the OpenSSH server, which is what actually let your machine accept incoming SSH connection. Now once you hit enter, it will start installing right away if it's not already installed. In my case, it's already installed, so it just check for the updates and make sure everything is up to date or not. And if there anything new, it will automatically install it, and you can see here there aren't any updates or upgrades at the moment, so we are good to go. Now moving on to the next step, once OpenSSH is installed, it's time to start and enable the SSH service so that your machine can actually accept the incoming connection. So before we move forward, here's a quick tip kinda. If you ever misconfigured your SSH configuration file and you want to reconfigure or reset it back to its default state, you have got two options. You can either remove the OpenSSH package completely and reinstall it, or you can reconfigure it using Debian package manager. To do that, just run sudo dpkg-reconfigure and the package name is OpenSSH server. So once you hit enter this command, it will guide you through reconfiguring the SSH server step by step. Since I am setting it up for the first time, I don't need to do this, but it's super helpful if you have accidentally edited the config file. And there's one more thing we need to do before we move forward. We have to start and enable the SSH service. So without this step, your server won't actually accept any incoming SSH connection. So let's go ahead and start the SSH service. Just type sudo systemctl start SSH. This will start SSH service immediately. And after that, we have to make sure it automatically runs every time you reboot your system. So just type sudo systemctl enable SSH. Alright, now that we have started and enabled the SSH, let's check its status to confirm it's running properly. You can do that by typing sudo systemctl status SSH. If you see it showing in green and saying active running, that means your SSH server is up and ready to accept connection. Alright, now that our SSH server is up and running, time to configure the SSHD configuration file properly. And this is where we control the key settings like which users are allowed to connect, whether root login is permitted, and which port SSH listens on. And this file is located under the following directory. So let me list all the files in the /SSH folder. And as you can see, we have the SSHD configuration file right over here, and that's primarily what we wanted to edit to set up the kind of access we need. And one more thing I want to tell you that before we make any changes, it's always a good practice to create a backup of the original configuration file. That's way if something goes wrong, we can easily restore the original settings. Alright, let's make a quick backup by copying SSH config file to a new SSH config.backup file by typing this command sudo copy, and let me give the path of the SSH config file, and then we have to add the destination path of the SSH config.backup file. And as we hit enter, you can see we have created the backup file, and now we are ready to safely edit the SSH configuration file. So first open the SSH configuration file using a text editor. So the command for that is sudo vim, and I'll have to specify the directory of the file, which is etc/ssh config right over here, and hit enter. And as you can see here, it's a system wide configuration file where you can customize the SSH option right over here, and here in the configuration file you will notice all of them are commented out, which means they are stick to default setting here. And if you actually want to change a setting, just remove the hash at the beginning of the line and modify the value as simple as that. So let's say if you want to change the port number, by default it's set to port number 22, but you can change it to something else, for example 1234, or maybe port number 2222, or any unused port number above 1024. All you have to do is just remove the hash at the beginning of the line and set it to desired port number. But in my case, I'm just going to leave it everything as it is and keep the default port. So just let me comment it back again, and let's move forward. And as you can see here, there are a bunch of other options you can configure in SSH, but I'm going to focus on the most important ones you should definitely know about. So when you talk about logging, SSH keep tracks of all connection commands and changes made through it, which is really useful for monitoring activity and spotting any suspicious behavior on your server. And that's definitely a good thing to have enabled, and especially if you are setting this up as a proper server, not just for personal testing. But what we are really focusing on here is authentication. This is where we control how users or clients authenticate to the SSH server and how secure those logins are. So as you can see here, a setting called login grace time, which is usually set to 2 minutes by default. That means a user have 2 minutes to successfully log in before the server drops the connection. You can leave it as it is or change it if you prefer shorter or longer timeout, totally up to you. And the one I am really looking for here is permit root login. By default is usually disabled, but I am going to enable it by removing the comment and setting it to yes. This will allow us to directly log in as the root user. Now if you have multiple users account on your system, you can decide who should have the root privileges and who shouldn't. It's completely up to you how you want to manage that. Just make sure that you understand the security risk before allowing the direct root access. Another thing we should do is limit the failed login attempts to prevent the brute force attacks. So for example, if we set the max authentication tries to 3, this will drop the connection after 3 incorrect tries, and you can also set the values of max session accordingly. Alright, then let's talk about password. By default, SSH lets user login via password. The thing is, password can be guessed or brute force, which isn't very safe. To make SSH more secure, we are going to disable password logins and enable key-based authentication instead. So in your SSH config file, make sure these lines are set. Password authentication no, public key authentication yes. This way only users with correct SSH key can log in. It's much harder for attackers to break in this way. You can also restrict access to a specific user by adding lines like allow user and then type the username at the end of the file. This ensures that only account you specify can use the SSH to connect. Once you have made all these changes, just to prevent any misconfiguration, just go through everything and save the file and then restart the SSH. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just leaving everything at the default setting for now. So once you are done with making changes, go ahead and restart the SSH service so everything takes effect. Just type sudo systemctl restart SSH. Alright, so now that we have set up our SSH server, it's time to test it and actually connect to our Kali machine. So first let me quickly check if the SSH service is running or not. Just type sudo systemctl status SSH. If it shows green and say active running, that means our SSH server is up and ready to accept connection. One thing to note is that if it says disabled, don't worry, just run sudo systemctl enable SSH. This will enable SSH to start automatically on boot. Then if you check the status again, you will see that SSH is now enabled and ready to go. Let me show one more thing before connecting from another machine. I like to test it locally just to make sure everything is working fine. So just type SSH, then type your username at @localhost. This will basically connect back to our own system through SSH. If it asks for a password and then log you in, that's mean everything is working perfectly and you are good to go. Now the next step is to find the IP address of a Kali machine. To do that, just run ifconfig, then look for the IP address under your active network interface, which is usually at 0 or WLAN 0. And right over here you can see it's running on 192.168.239.137. So I'm gonna copy that and just let me go to my Windows here, and for now I'm going to use the terminal to connect, but you can also use putty or any SSH client if you prefer. Once you have the IP, go to your terminal and type SSH your username of your machine at the IP address of your machine. In my case, I am logging in as a root, so I'll type SSH root at the IP address of a machine, which is 192.168.239.137, and hit enter. The first time you connect, it might ask you to trust the server fingerprint. Just type yes and hit enter. Then it will ask for the password. Let me enter my password here, and that's it. We are now logged in as a default root user in Kali. Now that I am connected to the Kali terminal, I can browse my directories and see all the files here. For example, if I type ls, it will list all the files and folders inside my home directory, and from here I can basically control my entire Kali machine remotely, just like I were right sitting in front of it. One of the important things to remember is that if you are not actively using your SSH, it's best to turn it off to reduce the system potential attack surface. You can easily do it with these commands: sudo systemctl stop SSH. This command will stop the SSH server immediately, and then you have to type sudo systemctl disabled SSH. This command will prevent it from starting automatically on boot. This way your system stays more secure when SSH isn't needed. And that's it guys, we have successfully installed configure SSH on our Kali Linux VM, and we even tested it by connecting through the terminal. Now you can manage your Kali Linux completely over the network. So if you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment if you have any doubt. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.